With a direct drive wheelbase, a steering rim, and also a set of pedals, all for £569, is the Moza R5 bundle the perfect stepping stone into the world of direct drive sim racing? Let's find out in this video. Hey guys, it's Yorkie here and welcome to the channel for my review on the Moza R5 bundle by Moza Racing. Now just quickly before we get into this video, I do want to put a disclaimer out there to state that Moza Racing did send me this R5 bundle for free. However, despite that, they have had no further part in terms of the editing process. All the thoughts and opinions here in this video are completely my own from testing the various pieces of equipment in the R5 bundle over the last couple of weeks. And down in the description below is also a sponsored link, which if you were to click that and purchase a Moza product through that link, I will get 10% commission. Unfortunately, there is no discount or discount codes provided with that link, so if you wanted to use it and purchase a Moza product off the back of this review, it'll be very much appreciated if you use that sponsor link in the description. Now, with the disclaimer done and out the way, let's do a quick overview of the R5 bundle. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, it costs £569, and for that you get the Moza R5 direct drive wheelbase, an ES steering wheel, and the SRP Lite pedals. As you can see here, I've got an additional clutch pedal as well as the SRP Lite brake performance kit, and both of these are actually separate accessories. They don't come with the R5 bundle as standard. However, as Moza Racing have sent them through to me, I shall also cover them here in this video. So as we're pretty much already talking about the pedals, let's actually begin there. And unfortunately for me, these are the weakest part of the bundle. The pedals themselves are high strength steel and come in quite a nice black finish. And this finish is actually textured on the pedal faces themselves. So if you do race in socks like myself, you're not going to have a problem here. There is plenty of grip, so you don't really get any slip. And this also goes for putting the pedals on the floor as well, if you're not mounting them to a sim rig like I have here. On the underside of each of the pedals are two anti-slip mats, so if you're using it on a wood or carpeted floor, you'll get plenty of grip there and the pedals shouldn't move around. Now when it comes to the adjustability of the pedals, things are actually pretty good here considering the price point of this bundle. As you can see along the width of the base plate, there are various mounting holes that allow you to optimize the position of your throttle, brake and also clutch pedal if you get that as a separate accessory, allowing you to get the best position for your feet. Also, the actual pedal faces themselves. There are various mounting holes up and down the length of the pedal arm, allowing you to move the faces down a little bit lower, closer to the base plate, or if you've got bigger, longer feet, you can raise them up a little bit higher to optimize the position of that pedal plate to match with your toes or the ball of your foot, depending on how you drive with the pedals. The pedals themselves do use Hall sensors. That is in the throttle, brake and also the clutch pedal. There is no load cell here with the brake, and this is probably the biggest downfall of this bundle, I would think. Obviously they're trying to keep costs down, and this is one of those areas where they are trying to save on money. However, with the pedal not actually coming with any kind of resistance, it feels very similar to the throttle pedal. There is just the tiniest little bit of difference, slightly more resistance in the actual spring behind the brake compared to the throttle, but it's almost non-noticeable, and therefore it becomes really difficult to get any kind of feel through the brake pedal when there isn't any resistance there. Now obviously Moza have listened to the feedback of other reviewers who have picked up on exactly the same thing that I am describing here, and with that have provided a solution with the SRP Lite Brake Performance Kit. Now this is an additional accessory that is separate from the R5 bundle and will cost you an additional £29. However, I cannot recommend this brake performance kit enough. It comes with a spring and a damping block which provides actual resistance to the brake pedal and gives you a much more progressive feel. With that you get so much more control on the brakes, and it actually makes it so much more enjoyable. It brings the pedals up basically on par with some of the better non-load cell pedals on the market, similar to the Thrustmaster T3 PA Pro add-on pedals, which I had been previously using before I got my Fanatec V3 load cells. It makes the overall experience on the pedals so much more enjoyable. It's the one thing that you always want from a set of pedals, is to have good brake feel. It doesn't really matter too much about the clutch and it doesn't matter too much about the throttle. It's the brake that is most important. As for the other two pedals, they feel pretty good. They've got a fairly good good throw. There's no real flex or wobble in the pedal system. They're built to a very good high quality standard and they feel pretty good to use. Obviously with the clutch you can take it or leave it depending on what kind of cars you drive. I personally like having a clutch, mainly just for launching the cars, so I actually have control over that process. But obviously it's down to you as to whether you want it or need to use it. If you did want to purchase the additional clutch pedal, it is an extra £44 on the Moza Racing website. The last thing that I wanted to touch base on with the pedals is the installation process, which is very easy, very simple. Everything that you need comes in the box with the R5 bundle, so I didn't need to go out and get any additional screws or anything like that. It was just simply a case of adjusting the pedals into the position that I wanted them in and then simply mounting them to my rig. All in all, took me 5-10 minutes in order to install them, and then there's a cable provided in the box as well, which goes directly from the pedals into the back of the R5 direct drive unit as well. So yeah, all in all, pretty good set of pedals, especially when you've got the brake performance kit. Without that, it is a little bit of a letdown. However, if you do get the brake performance kit, you are going to get a much more enjoyable experience. Next up, we're going to talk about the ES steering wheel, which mounts onto the R5 direct drive wheelbase. It uses an aluminium alloy frame with handmade stitched leather around the outside, which appears to feel like a false leather sort of material. 22 programmable buttons as well as an RGB sequential shifter light are on the face of the rim, and around the back you got the quick release system as well as 2 shifter paddles for shifting up and down through the gears. And then the last thing to cover specs wise is the overall diameter of the wheel rim, which comes in at 11 inches, which is 29 centimeters, give or take just a couple of mil. Now, as for my thoughts and opinions on the wheel rim, I actually really quite like it. I think it looks pretty good and fairly aesthetically pleasing. I like the flat bottom of the rim, which is something that I've always kind of preferred on wheel rims. It gives you a little bit more clearance with your legs as well. It's a good overall size. It doesn't feel too big and it doesn't feel too small. It's a good kind of grip in terms of the thickness of the actual wheel rim. Nothing uncomfortable or too unusual there for me, having come from the Thrustmaster T300 using the Ferrari 599 X Ferrari rim. One thing that is definitely a big plus and something that I really do like is the number of buttons on the front. Obviously, the more buttons that you have on the steering wheel, the more control and more functions you can assign to those buttons and have within easy reach. The layout of them is pretty decent. A number of the buttons are quite easily reachable without having to move your hand or adjust it from the sides holding the wheel rim. Obviously, some buttons you may have to reach a little bit further with your thumbs or your fingers, but for the most part, they are pretty good and quite easily accessible. The flappy paddles on the back again are something that you don't need to stretch for and have a pretty good throw with a nice audible click. As for the click itself when shifting, it is quite a bit louder than what I had on my previous rim. It's something that my fiance has noted, so it may be something to keep in mind if you have other people in the house or the vicinity with you. And then the RGB shifter lights have also been pretty cool as well. I've actually been enjoying using these a fair bit more than I was expecting to. I thought they were going to be a little bit gimmicky. However, couple them with the pit house software, which allows you to tune the various different stages of the shift lights. You can actually adjust them and get them to match up the various different cars, the various different sims that you are driving, and actually make them useful to get them to flash at the optimal point of when you want to shift. So I've actually really been enjoying having these RGB lights here on the front of the wheel rim as well. There is just one small little thing that I wish they would change or improve upon with the RGB shift lights, and that is allow you to adjust them on a per gear basis rather than doing it for all gears as a whole. Because one thing that I have found with some cars and some sims is that in 4th gear the shift lights are pretty much bang on exactly where I want them to be, but for 5th gear it's a little bit too long or it's a little bit too short. So I wish that is one improvement that they would bring. It's more, I think, a software thing and probably needs something to do with the communication between the actual pit house software and the racing sim that I'm playing as well. But yeah, for the most part, I'm really enjoying the wheel rim. There are 2 small little issues that I kind of encountered with the wheel rim. The first only seems to happen in Assetto Corsa Competizione, and that is that the downshifts can sometimes become a little slow. It still registers each individual downshift, but if I went bang 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 bang, it kind of just goes bang, 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 bang. I haven't actually been able to pinpoint and diagnose the issue. Could be downshift prevention within ACC itself, but it's not something that I've experienced in other sims, having used this wheel rim or previous wheel rims either. So that is one slight issue that I had there. I have kind of been able to negate it a little bit by like restarting the game or restarting the software, but it seems to be a little bit inconsistent, and it kind of seems to be a little bit intermittent as well. It's not happening too often, but it does happen every now and then. And then the other drawback for me with this ES racing wheel rim is if I bring it up here and try to show you, if I can get the angle right, you can see down on the inside here is a little bit of stitching on the inside of the wheel rim, and that is right where you hold onto the wheel with your thumbs. Now, it's not too bad when driving without gloves, but one thing that I have found is with my very admittedly soft hands, it could be a little bit uncomfortable rubbing against that stitching on the inside of that part there. I'll just try and show you again just so you can see. Camera's slightly out of focus, but the stitching on the inside there, right where the thumb goes, and that is a little bit uncomfortable at times. I wish it wasn't there because it's not there on the Thrustmaster 599 X Ferrari rim that I had been previously using. But other than that, that's the only real downside. I can completely negate that by wearing gloves, which I do tend to do. It's just obviously for those who don't wear gloves, it may be something for you to keep in mind. But if you've got harder, tougher fingers or hands than I have, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue. And now for the best part of the R5 bundle, the Moza R5 direct drive wheel base itself. It produces 5.5 peak Newton meters of torque, has a 15-bit encoder resolution, and also has 1000 Hz refresh rate through the USB cable. It uses aeroplane grade aluminium, and aesthetically it looks absolutely fantastic here with the black finish and the Moza decals on the front and also the side. And the quick release system is absolutely fantastic and very simple, very easy to use. I mean, just look at this demonstration here of taking the wheelbase off and then putting the wheelbase back on again. It really is that simple and easy, and it is rock solid as well. There is zero flex coming through the wheel shaft and the quick release mechanism whatsoever. Very, very impressive. Now, when it comes to mounting your wheelbase, you've got a number of different options here. You can, of course, mount it to your rig via the 4 screw holes on the bottom of the base. Obviously, some rigs may not be able to utilize all 4 screw holes. However, my Track Racer TR80 was able to do that. And for those of you who do not have a rig, you can actually mount the R5 to a desk, because provided in the box with the R5 bundle is a desk clamp. Now, this is one of the positives of only having 5.5 Newton meters of torque, is there isn't so much torque and so much power there that you don't need an absolutely rock solid stable platform in order to use this direct drive wheel. As for the desk mount itself, it's made of metal, very, very sturdy. It's got these 2 clamps here that will allow you to tighten and fixate the desk mount to your desk. The actual mounting points for attaching this desk mount to the bottom of the wheelbase utilizes the same 4 screw holes as those that you would find if you were attaching your wheelbase to a rig as well. Obviously a fantastic solution for those who do not have rigs, and certainly Moza being very, very conscious of their target audience here, trying to target the R5 bundle at those who may not necessarily have rigs, and for those who may want to upgrade to a direct drive system. Now, the first thing that you'll notice as soon as you start driving with the R5 wheelbase is just how smooth it feels. There's no sense of any kind of grainy or notchiness or lumpiness in the force feedback. There's no sense of torque rippling. It just feels very clean. You can feel the detail in terms of the road surface, the road bumps, the curbs. You can feel the suspension moving around and the chassis kind of reacting. Obviously the tyres gripping up and losing traction as you're getting hard on the power or you're locking under braking. All the detail that you could possibly ever hope for is there being delivered here in this R5 wheelbase, and it is absolutely night and day difference between the T300 that I was previously using and the R5, to the point that iRacing has kind of somewhat become transformed a little bit for me. I feel so much more detail with the R5, feel the tyres starting to slip much sooner, and therefore I'm able to counteract and prevent the slide from happening much sooner. I get a much greater sense of control of the car. It feels a lot more connected and a lot more planted. I think that comes with the higher torque level. There's a lot more natural built-in stability with the car, as the force feedback being delivered by the direct drive will kind of naturally, it starts to automatically counteract any sort of slide, and you can feel that detail happening much sooner, so you can react that much sooner and prevent the car from sliding. So yeah, you get a greater sense of control, a heightened sense of stability driving with the R5 wheelbase. And as I said, all the detail is there. Going through corners, you can feel all the road bumps, you can feel the tyres kind of gripping up, and none of the detail is being lost. I had no issues over the course of long driving periods as well over 1, 2, 3 hours. No sense of kind of loss in the force feedback detail. It kind of maintained it throughout the entire time that I was playing. The unit itself didn't get hot or overheat, which is something that a couple of other reviewers have picked up on in the past, but personally for me, even after 2-3 hours of pretty solid driving, I could quite easily put my hands on the wheelbase and it not really be any sort of different temperature to any other peripherals or surfaces that I can kind of touch in the close vicinity with me. There is some additional settings within the pit house software that kind of helps with temperature control. So obviously Moza are listening to the feedback that reviewers and their players I've been giving them over the course of the last few months, and been constantly improving the software and their products as much as they can, where they possibly can, and offering solutions to various issues or problems that players have been coming across. But yeah, having come from using Logitech and Thrustmaster wheels in the past, and this being my first direct drive, I have been pretty much blown away as to how good this R5 actually is. I have used other direct drive wheels in the past, but they've mainly been at events, and you don't really get enough time to really kind of enjoy them and truly appreciate the feel of the direct drive wheel, because your initial impressions from playing in those kind of situations in the events is just how much torque there is and how much power there is in the force feedback system. Whereas obviously having had a lot more time to kind of sit down, fiddle with the pit house software and the various settings there, being able to tune and adjust the force feedback to a level that I quite like, where I'm getting all the details that I want to feel and have them at the sort of level that I like to personally have. And yeah, just all out, it's been a fantastic piece of kit. You could potentially argue that you may want a little bit more power, but I don't think Moza Racing want that. I don't think that's their intention here with the R5 direct drive wheelbase and this R5 bundle. Obviously they're trying to make it as accessible for as many people as they possibly can. They're trying to keep costs down, so having just 5.5 newton meters of torque is going to be enough, I think, for a lot of people. The only reason as to why you'd want to go higher is so you can get a little bit more bandwidth, and some of those details will be a little bit more clearer and a little bit more pronounced, as you've got more headroom there to play with the details. But all those details are there, can quite easily be felt with the R5. So yeah, generally I have been really impressed with this R5 bundle and this R5 wheelbase. There is, however, a couple of small negatives that I do need to talk about here. The first is that it is PC only. There is no console support officially as it currently stands. There are rumours, I have heard things that Moza are looking into supporting consoles in the future, but as it is right now, it is only a PC platform, which is a shame because I think the R5 bundle would be absolutely perfect, and I think a lot of console players would appreciate the chance of being able to utilise a more affordable direct drive system without having loads of torque, and obviously being able to use it in a place where they don't need to have a massive wheel rig and can just mount it to a desk or another similar surface. Another downside is that the R5 wheelbase itself is not actually sold separately from the R5 bundle. Now this one is a little bit strange to me, because no doubt there are a number of customers and players out there who are looking for a very cheap, affordable direct drive solution without too much torque and power that they can mount to a desk or a similar surface because they don't have a rig, or they don't have the cash, or just don't want a direct drive that's outputting 9, 10 or more Newton meters of torque. And obviously the R5 would be perfect for them. However, they may not want the R5 bundle because it comes with the wheelbase, the actual steering wheel, and then the pedals, and they may already, like myself, actually have a good set of pedals, load cell pedals or something like that, and therefore aren't going to use the SRP Lite pedals, and that little extra bit of expense for that is effectively then wasted. So why not just have the wheelbase, the R5, being sold separately on its own, that you can then just pick up the R5 base and the ES steering wheel without the pedals, or potentially with another wheel rim, which is another slight issue with the R5 as well, is the compatibility with the other Moza racing wheel rims that are available on the website. Currently there's only compatibility with the ES steering wheel and also the FSR Formula rim. None of the other rims that are sold by Moza actually work with this wheelbase, which is a little bit of a downside and a little bit frustrating for those who may have a different wheel rim to one that actually works here with the R5. So yeah, those are the issues that I have with this Moza R5 bundle. Some of the others that I obviously talked about previously in the video when we were discussing the individual components, but a lot of the issues I feel that Moza Racing can quite easily address and rectify, and as they have shown in the last couple of months, having looked back at other reviewers and kind of seeing what they were saying back when they reviewed their products, Moza have made strides and have made improvements and rectified a number of the issues, as I've not personally experienced some of the negative feedback that other reviewers have provided. So they're obviously listening to their customers, they're listening to their fan base, which is absolutely fantastic. It's something that you want to hear when you're looking at various different brands and wanting to potentially purchase one of their products. So I do have to commend Moza Racing for that, and hopefully they continue to make good strides in the future and improving their products even further. But that is my comprehensive review of this Moza R5 bundle. Absolutely fantastic piece of kit in my eyes, especially the wheelbase itself. It definitely embodies the phrase "good things come in small packages," certainly lives up to that, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is looking for an affordable direct drive solution, especially with the brake performance kit for the pedals. That certainly improves things an awful lot there. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And if you are curious and want to purchase either the R5 bundle or want to take a look at other Moza Racing products and potentially purchase one of them, down in the description below is a sponsored link. And if you want to support my channel and support myself, it'll be very much appreciated if you use that when purchasing a Moza Racing product, as I would get 10% commission. Again, I do apologize, unfortunately there is no discount that I can offer here this time round. But anyway, I hope to see you guys again soon. In the meantime, have fun, stay safe, take care.